Chapter 6. This is why I'm protective. So ironically, Def saw the ending of that conversation, and so did Solar. Frick. I turned and walked over to Def, and did a slight bow. So did Solar to Def as well, and she turned and stood next to me.
You may say, Conductor. What thus happened?
He tilted his head to the left a bit. I didn't mean to make a run, sir. He realized I learned from Anastasius, and not from myself or yourself. Def nodded.
Well, that was very unfortunate. We were going to have a meeting, but I will say, we can't have one now with the three of us. We require another soul there.
I know one, Solar chimed in. They're a vigilante, but work only with villains. I believe they might be helpful to our cause, Def. What is their name? I demanded. Optimizer. They have the power to make anything from, 3D to 2D and so on. They can also digitalize themselves so they glitch out reality and go to any electronic device. I don't really know exactly how it works, but the only hero that can damage them and hit him pretty badly is Glitch. They are usually the ones fighting each other, Solar lectured. We're close friends. I think he could really help us, Def. Def nodded.
If you can get them here tonight, it would be greatly appreciated.
His gaze shifted over to me.
Do you know anyone?
I thought for a moment. I couldn't decide who to ask to come. I would say Dave, but him and Solar aren't the best working together. But Ace? He might work well with us. He's only worked with the Syndicate one other time, but that's when Anastasius was here. Maybe he'll work with us again. Oh, now think about it. Yeah, this will work. Ace is perfect. I have one man, sir.
Speak you may.
Def urgently replied. Do you remember Ace, sir? Def's smile grew under the mask.
Smart choice. By brilliant conductor of the sound of music. Someone in here.
He looked back at Solar and then back at me.
I'll be delighted to know both of your choices, but for now.
He crouched down and laid both of his palms in the dirt. Dark wood growing up and over the trees, making interesting designs. Some moonlight flowers grew in the wood too. Vines took over the soil and made 6 chairs and a stone raised from the ground. Solar had to move over next to me again, so she didn't end up on top of the table. The wood made a hole so the moonlight can seep through the ceiling and end up in here as well. The room was small yet large enough to fit about maybe almost 20 people, or possibly 25. A large stone came up from the ground and pierced the wood again, making itself the door. Vines unwrapped it, and making an S on the inside, and if I had to guess, the outside as well. Def stood up and took a long breath. As he did, everything, the wood, vines, and rocks, stopped moving.
Take a seat, please. Then you may summon your allies.
I walked over to one of the chairs on the side of the stone table. Def sat at the head of the table, and Solar sat across from me. There was a chair across from Def that always sat at the other end of the table if Anastasius did come back. If that ever did happen. Solar pulled out her phone and started to type, then put it away after a few minutes. After she did that, I did the same thing, pulling up Ace's contact and starting to text him. Conductor. Hey Ace, where are you, mate? Ace, I'm in Times Square. Conductor. The Angel of Death is requesting your assistance again. Ace. Amigo, you don't need to text like you talk. You can just text like you normally do, lol. Conductor. So can you meet up? Ace. C. Where at? Conductor. Edge of town. You'll know it when you see it. Ace. I'll see you there. I powered off my phone and tucked it back in my pocket before looking up and over at Def. It is done. Me and Solar harmonized accidentally. We looked up at each other and held back laughter. Deaf smirked, watching this as the stone moved out of the way, revealing a man in a full bodysuit that stopped at the neck. It was half blue and half red. In his face, he wore 3D glasses. Over his left eye was the blue lens, and over his right eye was the red lens. Over his mouth, he had a simple red bandana. The last thing he had on was a long trench coat that was a deep, rich purple.
I'm a late still.
He walked in and sat next to Silver Flare. I've never really heard anyone call her Star. Before he looked over to Deaf.
You did until death put a lovely night in it. It's remarkable that you wanted to come and join us, Optimizer. I've heard him saying great things about you.
Deaf blurted out right after.
I can say the same about you.
He stood up and reached his hand across the table, waiting for a handshake. Deaf sat up forward and shook Optimizer's hand.
Very delighted to meet you.
Once Optimizer sat back down, the door remained open, as Ace could be seen faintly in the distance, walking up and adjusting his mask. Before long, he was walking in and bowing to Deaf, then sitting next to me. Deaf stood up.
Welcome back, trusted friends, and evening to you, Optimizer. The reason I requested for you all to come and join us tonight is because our healer, Apollo, was taken hostage by the hero community.
He paused for a moment and let it sink in. I leaned forward a bit, slightly wide-eyed. Ace's shoulders dropped a bit. Solar's mouth opened a bit, then closed quickly again. Optimizer sat up a bit, shocked clearly all over his face. Deaf looked down at the table before looking back up and continuing.
Apollo was with me when it happened. I was trying to keep Dream and Arson occupied so Apollo would be able to escape. But I didn't realize that Glitch was there too. And he took Apollo.
I was about to stand up and lecture Deaf when Ace put his hand on my shoulder. He shook his head and whispered, I know it hurts. We'll get him back, I promise. I nodded as he took his hand off. Everyone was silent. The air felt thick and heavy. As I replayed the message in my head, I can't think straight. I just can't. Apollo isn't just another name for Tommy. And if I had to tell the hero community who I really am, I would tell them. I'd do anything to save Tommy. It hurts, doesn't it? A voice echoed in my head. Be the villain you were always meant to be. Go kill, go set fire to the place burning in your head and your heart. What? What does that even mean? Why does it sound familiar? It kind of sounds like Phil's other adopted son would talk. I guess in some ways, him and Tommy were and practically are the same. One likes to fight and the other likes to cause chaos.
I have a plan to get Tommy back.
Dev said once again.
It might be a lot to ask for from everyone, especially you, Optimizer. Considering that you're new here, I'll first tell you all the teams, then run down what we're going to do.
He sighed a bit and whispered something under his breath.
Most of you know about the rebirth of Anastasius, and how we have not succeeded to find him just yet. I believe he will be coming back to help us with the plan. I took a lot of searching, but I was able to find out how to contact him. If we all stay in touch, we should be able to get Paula out of there in no time. It might be Alaska. Alaska! You may start. Connector.
A few moments later.
Connector!